So there's a few things that stood out to me about the Indiana Fever's schedule. One, they have extra back-to-backs, or not necessarily extra. There are other teams with as many, but more than most teams, 3 back-to-backs on the season, I believe, which sucks when you're trying to prevent injury and all that. But there's another quirk in the schedule that could lead to it being a season for the books, especially for the duo of Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston. Look, we know those two have quite a relationship on the court and off the court. All those things, it's really worked out for them back-to-back number one.
The secret is out, and what insiders are saying will change how you see this season forever. At a closed-door Team USA run in 2026, Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston didn't just look good, they looked unstoppable. This wasn't practice, this was a warning to the entire league. Coaches left stunned, trying to process a connection that looked almost unreal. The timing, the movement, the chemistry, it felt automatic, like they were reading each other before the play even developed, and now that footage is out, the conversation has changed completely. This is no longer about potential, this is about dominance in the making, and if this is even a glimpse of what's coming, the rest of the league has a serious problem.
Have quite a relationship on the court and off the court. All those things, it's really worked out for them back-to-back number one picks. You could say the Fever benefited from being bad because that was the case. But those two together, the foundation of the team. But not only do they have a chance to compete for a WNBA championship this year, but they should be teammates on Team USA. Both Clark and Aliyah Boston were part of the USA basketball camp in December. And one would assume they're both going to make the roster for the World Cup.
Now here's where things take a turn. The schedule itself might become the biggest test for this rising powerhouse. The Indiana Fever are walking into a brutal stretch with 3 back-to-backs, more than most teams, and that kind of grind pushes even elite players to the edge. This is where injuries happen, this is where depth gets tested, and where contenders either rise or fall, and for a young team built around Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston, this is the moment that will define them, because if they survive this stretch, they won't just be promising, they will be proven.
Both going to make the roster for the World Cup. And when you look at the WNBA schedule that was released, assuming a CBA gets done, this is interesting. They will go on a break from August 31st to September 16th for the World Cup, which will be played in Berlin. Teams will have a handful of games after that tournament finishes, with the playoffs set to begin on September 27th. So really, you could have that break there that allows those two players and everybody else on the Team USA, of course, to go to the World Cup and compete for a gold medal. And, Clark and Boston could be gold medal teammates, and it stands to reason they'll both be playing big.
But then comes the twist that could flip everything in their favor: a rare mid-season break from August 31st to September 16th tied directly to the World Cup, and this changes the entire equation, because while the league pauses, the spotlight shifts global, and for Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston, this isn't downtime, this is opportunity, a chance to build chemistry under pressure on the biggest stage possible, and if they click there, the momentum they bring back into the WNBA could be explosive. This isn't just a break, it's a setup for something much bigger.
World Cup and compete for a gold medal. And, Clark and Boston could be gold medal teammates, and it stands to reason they'll both be playing big minutes for that team as well. And then you go back to the season. And so that hype feeds in to the other, and you get the playoffs, and they push even further. So if the Fever make an extended run in the playoffs, it's a double whammy of sorts. And why do you say they're going to make the team? Well, we know what happened when Clark didn't make the Olympic team last time around. And, she's the best point guard in the world, so she should be on the team. But Sue Bird, who's the managing director of USA Basketball, also had good things to say about both players. I mean, this was back at...
And behind the scenes, the message is already clear around the league. This isn't just another young duo. Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston are the core of the Indiana Fever. Everything runs through them. Their chemistry isn't forced, it's built over time, on trust, on competition, on shared expectations. And now that foundation is turning into something real, something dangerous. Teams aren't just watching, they're adjusting, because when 2 number 1 picks start playing like one unit, the ceiling changes completely.
Caitlin Clark had played basketball in a minute.
Yeah, I thought she looked great, right? I mean, here's a player that didn't get to play this summer, didn't get to play a lot of basketball really in the last year plus. So for this to be the first day back, she looked great. The things that are going to be hard is always the conditioning part. It's really hard to get in basketball shape without playing basketball. So I'm sure that's going to, come as the camp comes. But she looks great regardless outside of that. And the other thing is rhythm, right? You got to find your rhythm. And, I'm sure everybody saw that one step back in transition she had. So the rhythm looks great. But more than anything, you want all these players to just be around each other, right? Off the court, on the court.
What makes this even more serious is that their impact doesn't stop at the WNBA. Both Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston have already made noise at the Team USA level, showing exactly why they belong, and around the program there's a growing belief that their spots on the World Cup roster are basically locked. This isn't hype, this is expectation. People inside the system see them as the future, and once they step onto that international stage together, the rest of the world is going to see it too.
On her podcast, The Fever took the quote here. What really stands out to me is Aliyah Boston. Aliyah Boston looks great right now. She looked great in USA camp. She's really, I think, found her game and just has a confidence about, this is what I do, and I'm going to be great at these things. And one of those things is playmaking. So that's another aspect that she sees for Boston on the USA squad, and that's been something that Boston has done for the Indiana Fever. So, it could be just quite a campaign for those two if things break the right way. I gotta assume health. Obviously, the Fever got to beat the teams in front of them. You're not walking to a championship. You're not guaranteed a championship. But they play.
Then you have Sue Bird stepping in with a reality check, and her words carry weight. She's seen everything, and when she talks, people listen. She admitted it had been a while since Caitlin Clark was fully back in action, but what she saw immediately stood out. She didn't hesitate. She said Clark looked great, and not just okay, but impactful right away, commanding attention, controlling the flow, reminding everyone exactly who she is even without full rhythm. Even without peak conditioning, the talent showed instantly.
And Boston and Clark being on the USA basketball roster is basically a given. So it seems far away now, but it could be a really, really special fall for not only the entire Fever team, but particularly those two. In the meantime, Aliyah continues to have good things to say about her teammate. She was Caitlin Clark's worlds collided on the broadcast of the Iowa-Maryland game because it was Lisa Bluter and Aliyah Boston together, obviously her college coach and her current teammate.
What's interesting about you both now is you have a connective thread, one of the most
But Sue Bird also kept it honest. She pointed straight at conditioning as the real challenge, because no matter how talented you are, you can't fake game shape, and that's where the work begins. Still, even with that concern, the flashes were undeniable. One move, one step back in transition was enough to remind everyone that Caitlin Clark doesn't lose her edge, she just reloads, and once that conditioning catches up, the version of Clark we're about to see might be even more dangerous than before.
I just always want to be in her camp and support her. I have so much admiration for her, for what she has really not only just accomplished, but what she's handled in her young 24 years of life. I told her today, your 20s have been pretty good to you.
I would say so. Yeah, they've been transformative, I would say, to say the least. And Aliyah, it's been interesting watching her final season in college with you here at the desk, and then watching your relationship develop at the professional level.
Yeah, honestly, it has been so great. It's always so weird when you play against someone and then you are on the same team and building that relationship. But I think just over the past 2 years, it's been amazing. From the first time she got to Indy and us just building that relationship on the court.
But the real story doesn't stop with Caitlin Clark, because what Sue Bird revealed about Aliyah Boston might be just as important, and maybe even more surprising. On her own platform, Bird didn't hold back. She made it clear that Boston is playing with a different level of confidence right now, a different level of control, and that shift changes everything. This isn't just about talent anymore, this is about evolution. Boston is no longer just a dominant presence in the paint, she's expanding her game. She's thinking the game differently, she's creating opportunities, not just finishing them, and that matters especially at the international level where versatility wins, and Bird pointed directly at that growth, highlighting Boston's playmaking as a key factor, something that doesn't always get headlines but changes outcomes, and inside Team USA circles, that kind of development doesn't go unnoticed. It elevates her role, it expands her value, and it makes her essential, not optional at the same time. There's another layer driving all of this, and it comes from Caitlin Clark herself, because what people haven't forgotten is the Olympic snub. That moment still lingers, and for a competitor like Clark, that kind of setback doesn't fade, it fuels something deeper, something more intense. This isn't just about making the roster anymore, this is about proving a point, about showing that she belongs at the center of everything Team USA is building. And when you combine that motivation with the chemistry she shares with Boston, you start to see the bigger picture. This isn't just two great players, this is a partnership built on pressure, on expectations, on a shared drive to be the best, and Boston herself has opened up about that dynamic, explaining how they push each other daily, how that competitive energy never turns off, how even small routines like pre-game moments and conversations build trust and confidence, and that connection shows up when the game is on the line. And then you bring in voices like Lisa Bluer, who has seen Clark up close and understands exactly how her presence changes everything, and she made it clear Boston is going to benefit in a big way because Clark creates opportunities that most players simply can't, and that combination of vision and execution is what turns good teams into great ones. And now across the league, the narrative is shifting. People aren't just calling them talented, they're calling them a potential all-time duo, and that's not something said lightly because when you look at how their skill sets complement each other, how their mindset aligns, and how their timing is coming together, it starts to feel like something bigger is forming, something rare, and then you add the possibility of a World Cup run followed by a deep playoff push, and suddenly you're looking at a scenario where both international and league success collide in the same window, something that almost never lines up this perfectly, and yet it's right there in front of them. But even with all that potential, there's still reality to deal with: injuries, fatigue, competition. None of it disappears, and nothing is guaranteed. This league doesn't hand out championships, it demands them every step of the way. But even with those challenges, the belief is growing stronger that Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston are not just part of the future, they are shaping it, and when they step onto that court together, whether it's for the Fever or Team USA, the expectation is no longer development, it's impact. Immediate, undeniable, and possibly historic.